Hey guys, it's Amber for CutCardStock. Today I'm going to be trying ink smushing and then stenciling on top of it. I'm also going to try doing this on Savoy Soft Gray 100% cotton cardstock. It holds water well, so it's great for this technique. I pulled out a couple different stencils. Both are from Simon Says Stamp. One is the Geo Leaves and the other one is Peony Bouquet. And I'm only going to show the cards today that I made with the Geo Leaves. You can see that I already have some ink down on my glass mat and I'm just spraying that with a water spritzer. I have a piece of packaging here and I'm just going to pick up some of the ink and smush it onto the card front. This is a piece, an A2 size piece of Savoy 100% cotton soft gray cardstock. And this is a letterpress cardstock, so it can definitely, it's really thick. It's about 140 pound, I believe, and it holds water really well. So even though I'm not using a lot of water, you could actually do some light watercoloring on this type of cardstock. So I have the Geo Leaf stencil taped down to my card front here that I ink smushed. I'm using one of the Altenew ink blending tools to just blend on some Teal Cave ink. This ink is also from Altenew, and I'm going to do two colors. So for the inks that I ink smushed onto the card, that was Aqualicious and Fuchsia ink. And then I'll ink blend with the next two darkest colors, and that is going to be the Teal Cave, which you just saw, and then Magenta. I'll have all of the supplies that I use linked down below. Now in between colors, I want to make sure that I clean my blending brush. So I wipe it off on a baby wipe first, and then I'll wipe it off onto a microfiber cloth. After I pick up my ink, I'm going to blot it off on the glass mat so that I don't get any harsh edges when I do my ink blending. I'll go ahead and ink blend that on, and any extra ink that's on the glass mat, I can pick that up and put that directly onto the card. That's one of the reasons I really like to use a glass mat with ink blending. Also because cleanup is super easy. It doesn't stain the surface. It's just super easy to do. So you can see I'm blending on top of the Teal Cave that we had there, and that's going to create a purple or a violet in the center, which will be really pretty. After the ink blending is done, we'll go ahead and gently peel up the stencil, and then we have this layered look. So we've got the ink smushing on the bottom, the stenciling on the top, and I love the layout of this stencil. It leaves you a perfect space for your sentiments, or if you wanted to put like a butterfly or a flower there. Here I have the Simon Says Stamp Beautiful Butterfly stamp set, and both of the sentiments that I use today are going to be from this set. For this card, I decided on the Thinking of You sentiment, and I'll ink that up with Altenew Obsidian Pigment Ink. This is my favorite ink for stamping sentiments. It has a firm felt pad, and because it's a pigment ink, it stamps beautifully, super crisp, super dark, and you usually only need to stamp one time, unless you're stamping on a rough paper, such as like a watercolor paper. Here's the finished card, and I love how the ink smushing kind of comes through that sentiment, the square around the sentiment. I think that's a cool look. And I'm not sure if you can tell that this is gray paper or not. You will be able to tell with the photos at the end. So here I have Magenta Crisp Dye ink. I'm just going to go direct ink pad to the stencil, and then I have Aqualicious, and same thing. I'm actually going to overlap that just a little bit. And then I'll spray the stencil with water. Now this stencil already had ink on it from ink blending, but I really wanted to intensify that. So I added more with the ink pads. I'll spray this with water until it's good and wet. And then I'll lay down another piece of the Savoy 100% cotton soft gray cardstock. So I'm just gonna press that into there. This is an A2 size piece of cardstock. It's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm just going to press it completely down. Now this time this is going to give us, you know, before we did the positive area, this is going to now print the negative area of the stencil. And you can see that here. And I love how that turned out. Two different looks. I really like them both. So I'm just going to clean up my stencil and my surface, and then I'll stamp a sentiment. I decided I wanted to add a flower, so I have the Look for the Rainbows Simon Says stamp set, and then I also have the Beautiful Butterflies, which, as I said, both of my sentiments came from that set. So I picked the largest bloom from this set, and I'm going to stamp it in this space where there's less of a pattern going on. I wanted to add a little bit of a focal point there. I could have just added a sentiment, and I think that would have looked great, but I wanted to have something a little bit more. So I went ahead and stamped that with the same Obsidian ink. On a separate piece of cardstock, I'll go ahead and stamp a little note, and then I'll die cut that with a circle stacking die. Now here you can really tell that the cardstock that I stenciled was gray, and what I have the sentiment on is Neenah Classic Crust Solar White, so you really can tell that it's gray. For the embellishments, I'm using enamel dots from Altenew, and these are the shades of purple. So even though this card wasn't ink smushed first, it still has that ink smushed look because we just laid the cardstock down on the ink and water that was on top of the stencil. So a similar look, but it's the positive versus the negative. Here you see the cards together. And I just love how they turned out. It kind of took me back to my bright color schemes that I usually go for because I've been doing a lot of muted colors recently. And I hope you guys enjoyed these projects. All of the supplies will be linked down below, and I'll see you real soon with more inspiration. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, liking, and ringing that bell so you don't miss any new inspiration. Here's a couple more videos for you before you leave, and I'll see you real soon.